What's up, guys? It's me, Augustine Ramos. I got my shitty mic here, my shitty microphone. I'm just gonna hold it like this while I talk, even though the phone will pick up the audio just fine. Somebody said in a video about me that I don't do anything ever, even though I'm single and not married. That I drove my car over to a club that's off camera that you guys can't see, and I parked next to it, and I'm going to specifically mention that I'm near a club so that way you guys will think that I actually might go in the club, but that's just me. But I'm not bothered, but that's why I specifically made this video where I'm parked next to a club and talking about it, even though I'm never going to show myself go in there. Oh, it's just the lady that works at the Thai food place. I thought it was a police officer and I was going to be killed for sitting in my car talking on my phone. I thought I was going to die. Too long, nervous laugh. But anyway, guys, even though only 2 people make videos about me, even though only 2 people make videos about me and 4 people were commenting in my live feed, I don't have the time to respond to these people. It's just I'm so busy with my huge channel and all the people commenting, all 4 of them, and the 2 people that make videos about me. I can't be bothered to fucking respond to it. So my parachute in this position is just to claim that I'm too busy and I can't respond to it. So don't read too much into it, guys. Augustine out.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on, YouTube? Hope everyone's having a good day. We're talking about a different idiot today. You know, we're going to leave Ramos alone for now. He's going to do the Tommy route, right? He's going to just not respond to kind of save face, right? So it's a solid strategy. You can't fault him for that. But we're gonna switch targets. We're gonna go after somebody else. Specifically, the Canadians that listen to this moron. We're gonna talk to them because he brings in a lot of Canadians for some reason, guys, and I don't know why. But we're gonna get into that.
Fuck Canada!
So he gets all these liberal, fucking, just pinko commie, you know, just fucking left-leaning, annoying Canadians in his comments, just sucking him off like, oh my god, you're so great, right? You're so great. And they're talking tough, you know, hitting back at the United States. They're going to teach us a lesson. They're, you know, fuck Donald Trump this and yada, yada, yada. And it just bothered me, right? Not because they don't like Donald Trump, right? Like, you're allowed to not like Donald Trump. I don't give a shit if you don't like him, right? That's your business. It's none of my business. But when you start talking about the United States as Canada, we got to open your eyes to some shit, right? Because what is Canada really, right? It's a frozen hellhole that has some beautiful scenery when it's not under snow. And it has free healthcare that you'll wait in line for 3 weeks to several months at a time to actually utilize. And there's a large number of Canadians who cross the border and come down to the United States and pay for healthcare. But, you know, nobody ever talks about that, right? So, yeah, so you got, Canada up there with their free healthcare that takes forever to utilize. And maple syrup, I guess. Obviously, I'm being facetious here, right? But they're talking about, cutting off the United States and, we're not going to be annexed. All this stuff, that they like to talk about in his comments. Well, let's break that down, shall we? So the big thing to look at, right, is money, because we're talking about tariffs and trade wars, things like that, right? The gross domestic product last year of Canada was 2.2 trillion US dollars in size, right? That's a huge number. But there's got to be some context to that, right? When it comes to the gross domestic product, the simplest way to describe it is it's simply a way of measuring the health of an economy of a nation, right? Obviously, there's more that goes into it than that, but the just most basic bitch description of it is it's how you measure the economic health of a country, right? So $2.2 trillion. By contrast, like let's look at a U.S. state, for example. So this is New York, right? New York State has a GDP of $2.2 trillion, right? It's only slightly lower than the entire country of Canada, right? Just New York City itself is producing $2.6 trillion. So that's more. One city, one U.S. city is producing more than the entire country of Canada, right? But the Canadians are talking tough about retaliations and cutting us off from things, and you know, just the tough guy talk, right? Like we're going to teach those dumb Americans a lesson. Unfortunately, no, you're not, right? You're a speck on the map when it comes to any kind of power, right? And old Snidely Whiplash, you know, fucking Trudeau, you know, he couldn't help you. I doubt anybody else can, right? So when I see them talking in the comments like, yeah, fuck that place, you know, oh my God, we're going to get them. We're going to get those dumb Americans. You ain't going to get shit. You can't even get yourself. Mexico is only a few hundred million, behind Canada as far as GDP goes, right? And with trade relations and cooperation and stuff starting to fall between Canada and the US due to Donald Trump's policies, right? How long do you think it is before we shift over and start sending more money, more manufacturing to Mexico? They're already close, right? How much longer do you think it is before Canada is below Mexico on the GDP scale, right? You're that close to being a third world country. And I know that's not fair to Mexico, but to be perfectly honest, that's how a lot of people look at Mexico. They look at it as barely above third world, right? And it's only a few $100 million behind Canada. But Canada's going to talk tough about it, the United States, right? They're going to get all excited over this guy Trucks, the enemy within, talking shit about his own country when nobody even comes close. Not even China. China, as Trump would say. For contrast to Canada, the United States gross domestic product last year was almost $30 trillion. Our closest competitor was China, which was almost $12 trillion behind us, right? Their economy's in a downward spiral. They were artificially inflating it with basically fake real estate investments, fake infrastructure, right? But now all that's crumbling because they built all that shit, but nobody bought it. So it looked good on paper for a few decades, but now that it's just sitting there abandoned and crumbling, the house of cards is falling, right? Nobody comes close to the US, right? Not a single fucking person. And I know there's always the fear mongers out there like, oh, China this or oh, Russia that. You know, think about where Russia is right now as a country. They can't beat Ukraine in a war because the United States sent Ukraine a bunch of old shit that we built in the 1980s that was in storage. So all of our old scrap that our soldiers aren't using is holding Russia at bay. Just think about that, right? Anytime somebody gets on TV and goes, oh, haha, the Russians blew up a Bradley, well, I'd fucking hope so. That shit's 30 years old, you know, and it's still stopping the Russians. So nobody comes close to the United States. And I just find it funny that these people in Canada are acting like they have any weight to throw around. It's laughable at best. India has a higher GDP than Canada. And just to give you an idea of where, you know, Canada sits as far as like military weight to throw around, they're ranked 28th in the world for military power, just below Sweden. And just for context on how weak Canada is, Algeria and Thailand rank higher in military strength than fucking Canada, right? You better be happy that Donald Trump is just talking about having you guys get like swap sides, because at 28th fucking place underneath Algeria and Thailand, the National Guard of Montana could probably single-handedly invade Canada and just take it by force. So you're all upset because Donald Trump has floated the idea of some of the provinces of Canada possibly, voluntarily joining the U.S. They could steamroll you and take you if they wanted to, right? It's just politically they're not going to do that, right? It looks bad. But even that is laughable, right? Oh, you'll never take... Well, yeah, because, luckily, politically, it's a bad look to invade Canada. So it probably won't ever happen. But just know that if it ever were to happen, there's not a damn thing you could do about it. But you're going to talk tough in the fucking This Guy Trucks comment section about how you're going to stand up to the United States. You're already caving. There's news articles coming out about them removing retaliatory tariffs and shit. And speaking of trade, a huge part of that GDP that's barely larger than one of our states is the United States sending money, buying your shit. Look at that. The next closest country is China, and they're hundreds of billions of dollars away from anything that the U.S. sends to Canada. Right? That's almost $500 billion. The U.S. buying shit from Canada is 25% of your GDP almost. Right? I'm rounding up, but it's almost 25% of the GDP of Canada is the U.S. buying shit. And your threat is we're just not going to buy from the U.S. anymore? Highly fucking unlikely. Right? Somebody's got to pay for that shitty healthcare you guys are so proud of. Right? If the U.S. stops sending you 25% of your GDP every year, you won't be able to wait 3 months to see a doctor anymore. Oh my God. Right? So, I'm sick and tired of these hateful, fucking dumb Canadians thinking they're more important than they are. Right? You're a pinprick on the world stage thinking you're going to stand up. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm just saying that this is the reality. But you think you're going to stand up to the world bully when you're barely larger than Mexico? You think the United States has 11 aircraft carrier strike groups scattered around the world in strategic locations for our defense? No. That's to keep the rest of you idiots in line so our politicians can recklessly print money without our economy collapsing because you guys are too afraid to not buy oil in the US dollar. That's basically what it comes down to. So, I'm sorry, Canada. I know your feelings are hurt. I know you're tired of being bottom of the barrel and shit. It's just the reality. But you can hate on the United States all you want, but your country will never come close. Right? Granted, we don't have as many moose, and we didn't invent hockey, but you're never gonna be a powerhouse on the world stage. I'm sorry. No one's looking at Canada. Right? So, I mean, I can't stop you, and I know you're gonna continue, but you just keep on talking shit over there in that retard's comment section, making a fool of yourselves, acting like you're gonna do something. Like I said, there's already news articles out of Canada removing retaliatory tariffs from things that are going to the U.S. Because they have to. The U.S. doesn't need Canada, but Canada sure as hell needs the U.S. So, sorry. I mean, you can listen to that fucking dipshit, but he doesn't give a fuck about Canada, and he sure as hell doesn't give a fuck about politics, right? He just knows that that's what he needs to talk about to get views on YouTube. That's it. That's it. He's going to talk positively about Canada now because he knows you dumb fucks will watch his channel and get him views. That's all he cares about, is views on YouTube. And right now, the best views he can get is shitting on Donald Trump. And again, I don't care if you don't like Donald Trump, hate him all you want. But there's plenty of other people that don't like Donald Trump that aren't this fucking dumb fuck. This Joshua Traxler from Colorado, who doesn't even really care. He's not even the liberal that he claims to be. He's putting on an act for fucking YouTube. None of this is genuine. So you're spilling your hearts in his comment section, calling him a fucking hero, and none of it is even real. But anyway, guys, that's what I got for this one. Just something a little different today. Hopefully, Canada doesn't extradite me and put me in prison for being mean and hurting their feelings. But anyway, guys, we'll see you in the next one.